Very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our Newsfirst studios in Colombo. I'm Mattala. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
3 dead and another person admitted to the hospital after attending a party in the Vaddu area. Minister Amarveera says UPFA's final decision on opposition leadership to be decided tomorrow. MP Kumar Welgama says joint opposition shattered. President's secretary says Sri Lanka is ready to achieve United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Drone attack launched targeting Venezuelan president. South Africa wins third ODI against Sri Lanka.
Now the stories in detail. 3 people who took ill during a party at a hotel in the Vaddu area have passed away.
4 people who were at a party at the hotel that you see behind me were admitted to the Panadura hospital after taking ill.
The party, which began last night, had gone on till early this morning. The police said a private event management company had organized the party and there were over 1,000 people who attended it. It has been revealed that the event was made public over social media and that youth from across the country has attended it. 2 out of the 4 who were admitted to the hospital died this morning, while another youth passed away this evening. The deceased are residents of Casbaba and are aged 36, 31 and 20. The 4th patient, who was admitted to the hospital, continues to receive treatment at the ICU of the Panadura hospital.
I saw 2 people collapsing because of the heat and the dust that was inside. When I saw them, I asked that they be taken outside. We do not know the internal matters. I know this because I was there. The heat was about 47 degrees Celsius inside the location. I had to wipe off sweat with a handkerchief like this for about 25 times, but the heat did not go away. There were 2 big fans for the crowd of about 2,000. There was the name of an artist mentioned. That is why we came here. The international artist was Guy J. We saw this in the morning. There were girls lying on the floor.
When inquired, the hotel employees said they had only provided the venue for the event and that the organizers had provided the other requirements to the attendees. The post-mortem examination of the deceased will be carried out tomorrow. The remains are currently placed at the Panadura hospital.
Police say that 4 deaths have been reported during the last 24 hours.
A person who was shot at in the Yatiana junction in Minuwangoda around 11 this morning died after being admitted to the hospital. The deceased was identified as 68-year-old Justin Ratnasila, a resident of the Gamangedra area in Minuwangoda. The police added that the deceased was a person who was bailed out of remand custody over the alleged murder of mother and father and a son of the same family in the Minuwangoda area several years ago. A 27-year-old person was killed in an altercation that took place in the Basiawata area in Nigambo around 7 p.m. yesterday. The police said a sharp weapon had been used for the murder and that the reason for the altercation was a narcotic-related issue. The suspect has fled the area and the police have commenced investigations into this. A person has been murdered using a sharp object in the Indurana area in Vaharakaruwan Valla. The deceased was a 38-year-old father of 2. The death was a result of an altercation with a relative. A woman has been arrested over suspicions of murdering her sister-in-law in the Konegudamula area in Katana. The police said the suspect had attempted to hand over the body of the sister-in-law to the Nigambo hospital, claiming that she had passed away after being ill. It was revealed that she had been strangled to death through the post-mortem. The murdered individual was a person with special needs. Our correspondent said that she had been living in a small house constructed on a toilet pit.
The President will launch the National Sustainability Dialogue under the National Sustainability Development Programme tomorrow. The programme is implemented under the United Nations Sustainability Development Programme.
The dialogue is drafted in order to list out the sustainable development targets to be achieved by Sri Lanka by the year 2030.
President launched this draft with the aim of spearheading this development program. Sustainability Vision Experts Committee was established for this purpose. The target of this committee was to formulate a draft of National Sustainability Dialogue, and through this we aim to achieve the National Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030. The President is not asking you to accept this just by printing a book. This is what is different here. Read this, discuss about it and give us alternative ideas. Thereafter we will convert this into a national policy. The President will then make these policies national laws. This is not a document forwarded based on political parties. We have invited all stakeholders. The Prime Minister will be attending, and so will all the ministers representing the government. The opposition leader is to attend along with the former President. All have been invited and all will be attending.
Reconstruction activities at the Mattala Iriagolla Vav got underway earlier today under the Vav Dahasak Gam Dahasak program. The event was held under the patronage of Minister of Agriculture Mahinda Amaravira.
State Minister of Agriculture Vasantalu Bihare was also present at the event.
We have already imposed a 70 rupee tax on rice. Another tax of 40 rupees has been imposed on potatoes and big onions. We won't reduce any of those taxes without consulting the farmer. President Maithripala Sirisena is the only president in history who has given this many concessions to farmers. I haven't been asked to appoint the opposition leader yet. Neither has the president been asked to do so. However, the speaker had sent a letter. When I asked him about this, he told me 8 people had signed a letter and sent it to him, asking him to make Dinesh Gunawardena the opposition leader. One faction is requesting Dinesh Gunawardena as the opposition leader. Another faction wants Kumara Velgama. Local government members have approved resolutions too, stating that Kumar Velgama is fit for this position. All we can see is a crisis on that side. We will give an answer by tomorrow after discussing with the heads of our party. By tomorrow, the news of our decision will reach you.
The latest Udagaman project under the Samata 7 Yali Pibidena Udagaman program in the Thiruakkulam area in Mana was visited with the people today. Deputy Leader of the UNP, Minister Sanjit Premadasa, presided the event.
The Lurudanagar Udagamane, consisting of 23 houses, is a 102nd model village. The cost of this project is 22 million rupees.
I am very proud today. I went to all 23 houses that were built under this project. I am the first person who stepped into these houses. But what do those representing the flower bud do? They go to temples and declare open shrines which were built by the other people and try to create turmoil in the country. They act as if they are the biggest patriots around. Since the presidential election is around the corner, they are now going behind the Islamic people and the Hindu people. They are competing with each other to go to Kovils. I call this the fraud of the flower bud. Namesake Buddhists, instead of working towards the betterment of the religion and the Sangha, are trying to take shortcuts into presidency. I state this and I do it without fear. The devastation in Beruala and Aludgam happened all thanks to the former president and the government. If we are to protect the sovereignty of this nation, all races and religions should learn to live in peace and harmony.
Andrukumara Disanayaka responded to a statement made by former President Mahinda Rajapaksa during a protest rally held in Colombo recently.
His vocabulary does not suit his age. Therefore, I would like to request from him to learn to use his words with control. The essence of what he said was that we, while protecting the government, are attacking him. We do not do politics while sitting on Ranil's lap, nor do we do it on Mahinda's lap. Why? Because we are not indebted to them. But I would like to ask Mahinda Rajapaksa how he is protected by this government. When Shiranti Rajapaksa was to be arrested, Mahinda spoke to Ranil. Then who is anointing oil on Ranil? It is Mahinda. Why has the investigation into Tajuddin come to a standstill? Why has the investigation on Lasanta's case stopped? All these investigations are at a standstill because of an agreement between Ranil and Mahinda. We have nothing that we need to protect from Ranil or to be protected by Ranil. Then who has a lot of things that needs to be protected from Ranil and needs protection by Ranil? It is the Rajapaksas. Let's debate about this, because it is better than us speaking about this at various places. Isn't that more civilized? Therefore, I would like to discuss this at one platform. May it be a live television debate. There are many channels that support him, so you can create a platform in one of those channels. then I am ready to reveal to the people of this country how he has escaped from this government, his acts of corruption, crimes committed by his family members, the property that they have purchased in this country and overseas. So I would like to ask him to stop speaking like this.
Pakistan's Prime Minister-elect Nawaz Sharif has decided to keep volume of federal cabinet limited and award cabinet positions to those who are qualified in the subjects.
Pakistan has a population of about 207 million people. The GDP of the country stands at $1.41 trillion US. International media reported Imran Khan has decided to limit the federal cabinet to 15 to 20 members. The cabinet of ministers in countries like Singapore, India and Canada are also limited to several members. The cabinet of ministers in Singapore, a country with a population of 5.5 million people, is limited to 20 members. The GDP of Singapore exceeds $290 billion. There are over 35 million people in Canada and the cabinet of ministers has been limited to 35. A speciality of the Canadian cabinet is that all its members are educated individuals. The GDP of Canada is $1.84 trillion US. There are only 27 members in the cabinet of ministers in India, which has a population of 1.3 billion people. Majority of them are degree holders in the legal sector. The GDP of India exceeds $2 trillion. A key promise given by the Good Governance government was that the cabinet of ministers will be limited to a minimum amount and that the cabinet will be appointed in a scientific manner. There were 41 members in the cabinet of ministers in Sri Lanka, including the president. 10 of them are lawyers. There are 3 engineers and 1 doctor. The parliament website lists down a majority of the remaining 27 members of the cabinet as businessmen and landowners. It is disappointing to note that some of them do not even possess that qualification. There are several public representatives who do not attend parliamentary sessions where the public problems are being discussed. The parliament has had 115 sessions since the government came into power. There are 16 members of cabinet who have only attended 60 of those sessions. I saw on Facebook recently that over 100 parliamentarians do not have the SSC qualification. What intellectual governance can we expect from people like this? The problem today is why are uneducated people being elected? The reason is that the people cast their votes for these uneducated people. Here we have to say that the people too are acting imprudent. When uneducated people come into power, they do not have a moral. When that happens, they get into illegal activities. This is the situation in the country. Many countries have made public the details pertaining to education qualifications of their politicians. Why is our country not making education qualifications of politicians public? It is time for the people to choose wisely when it comes to appointing our public representatives.
We can only hope that Sri Lanka too will be able to implement policies similar to that of Pakistan Prime Minister-elect Imran Khan. Up next is Weather First.
Very good evening to all our viewers. You're joining me, Azra San, on Weather First. Let's now take a look at the weather forecast for the next few days. Strong winds can still be experienced across the island in coastal areas and in the central hills, especially in the western and the southeastern part of the country. Now, in the central and over provinces also, strong winds can be experienced. If we take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow and the day after, showers will be experienced in Colombo, Galle, Ratnapura and Kandy districts. Also on the 8th of this month, showers can be experienced in Colombo, Galle and Ratnapura districts. On the 9th of this month, the southwestern part of the country will be cloudy. Let's now take a look at the weather forecast for Colombo for the next few days.
The Ceylon Today reports that no audit has ever been carried out on the massive purchases of power that the Ceylon Electricity Board has been doing from independent power producers or IPPs.
The paper reports that there are no documented records of how the decisions were taken to make the purchases. Annual purchases of power average from 160 billion rupees to 200 billion rupees. According to reports obtained from the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka, the dispatch of power from country's numerous plants changes due to weather patterns and availability of hydropower, and the dispatch cost can vary from 100 to 600 million rupees per day. Identifying the least cost method when deciding the most viable option to purchase power based on the available data cannot be done manually and requires sophisticated digital assistance and software. The decision to purchase power is made by the system control of the Ceylon Electricity Board, and it is done manually. The importance of auditing the power purchases from IPPs has been in discussion over a long period of time. In a report published by the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka in the year 2013, titled Decision on Electricity Tariffs, it is clearly stated that, quote, dispatch planning software with monitoring facilities to PUCSL, unquote, should be implemented. It also says that a bulk supply transaction account should also be set up. The Commission has said that the licensee, which is the Ceylon Electricity Board, is directed to fulfill the conditions and tasks prior to the next tariff revision. According to the Ceylon Today newspaper, the PUCSL believes in the need for technology and software to be implemented at the System Control Center of the CEB to optimize procurement as well as cut down on the exorbitant amounts paid to IPPs as start-up and shutdown costs, which generally run into a few hundred million rupees.
Private power generations and the power purchasing to the Ceylon Electricity Board has making concerns during the last 6-7 years, and we saw that 95% of the capital cost has made a burden onto the public finance, but not a single audit has done for last 6-7 years. Not only these companies have to be audited properly, but the private wealth owned by these officials, ministries officials, and the previous and present ministers of the power and energy sector has to be audited, and there must be a proper investigations onto these allegations, which is making mainly concerned on power purchase.
The meeting of Kalutara district youth organizations of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna took place in Kalutara today.
Now, Mahindananda speaking to Lankadeepa says that there is no point in speaking about Kumar Velgama because he is acting the role of a joker. I would like to ask Mahindananda whether he didn't have a backbone to speak up at the Central Working Committee meeting. You did not have the courage to come to the stage during the Nugegoda rally. You were hiding and watching. Then who is the joker? We cannot allow those who don't have a backbone and those who work according to the whims of others to speak in this manner. There are some in the opposition who make deals with the government, and I am not scared to say this. If Mr. Rajapaksa is making a mistake, we must tell it to his face. I told him that if you are to go for this presidential election, we need you and no one else. I have no use in those who have not done politics. I speak to the face and I am not scared. Even if I am killed tomorrow, I will say what needs to be said for the sake of the country. I don't need any positions. I am 65 plus now, and I have been in the parliament for the past 25 years. Recently, we saw 2 rugby players from the UK died after using drugs. Now, last night, 2 youth from Vadua. Police now believe it is a case of overdose. 4 others are in hospital. They are not scared even if Maithripala Sirisena says that they will be hanged. Now, the party is being organized through Facebook and social media networks. If they are not stopping drug dealing, being scared of the capital punishment, it is very clear that this cannot be stopped.
Varying views are being expressed with regard to plans to launch the Mattala airport as an Indo-Lanka joint project. Let's take a look.
Quoting the Secretary to the Ministry of Transport and Civil Aviation, G.S. Vithanage, the Sunday Observer reported that the Sri Lankan authorities are confident that the proposed joint venture on the Mattala airport is just one step short of being finalized. It is further stated that since last year, 3 rounds of discussions were held with the Civil Aviation Ministry and the Foreign Ministry of India. Meanwhile, the Sunday Times reported that a draft memorandum of understanding to hand over the management of the Mattala Rajapaksa International Airport to the Airports Authority of India was recently presented before the Cabinet of Ministers and is now being reworked at the interest of the Indian government's request. The Sunday Times reported that talks for management control of the Mattala airport are continuing between India and Sri Lanka. The investment of the Mattala airport that was declared open in 2013 is $190 million or nearly 30 billion rupees. The loan, which has been obtained for 15 years from the Chinese government, has to be settled in 2030. The Indian government has agreed to invest $220 million for the Mattala airport. Recently, the Deputy Minister of Civil Aviation stated that it is about 35 billion rupees.
Leader of the National Freedom Front, parliamentarian Vimal Veerowonsa, says that both countries have concealed the truth about the Mattala airport to their respective countries. He made this statement while addressing a media briefing today.
When the subject minister in India is asked whether there are plans to purchase the Mattala airport at the Lok Sabha, he says no and that there have been no such discussions. However, the Sri Lankan Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation, Nimalsiripala de Silva, says that more than 3 rounds of discussions were held between the Civil Aviation Authority and the Indian Aviation Department, and the agreements are being formulated to hand over 70% of the shares permanently to India, and that the management of the airport will be handled by an Indian company for 40 years. Now, the statements made by the Sri Lankan Minister of Civil Aviation and his counterpart in India are contradictory. Why doesn't the Indian Minister of Aviation reveal what his Sri Lankan counterpart says at Lok Sabha? Is it because he is worried that the people of Sri Lanka might get aggravated by his statements and would attempt to hinder the chances of them striking a good deal? It is now very clear that both parties are keeping secrets from the people of both countries.
The Sunday Observer reported today that on the 31st of last month, CID Director SSP Shania Besekara alleged that the lawyer now appearing for the Navy suspects arrested in connection with the case pertaining to the abductions of 11 youth in 2008 also appeared to represent the suspects instead of the CID or the aggrieved parties, even when he was serving as a senior official at the AG's department.
The paper reported that the CID director's intervention in court was related to an application made by President's Counsel Shavindra Fernando and another counsel for the suspects Asit Sirivardhana to have their names removed from the CID-B report of the investigation. The paper says the counsel told courts that they had prejudiced by the inclusion of their names in the B report. The former Additional Solicitor General, President's Counsel Shavindra Fernando, who has since retired from the Attorney General's department, currently serves as defense counsel for several Navy suspects in the same abduction case, now under magisterial inquiry at the 4th Magistrates Court. The paper noted that CID Director SSP Shania Besekara provided a detailed description of facts stated in the CID-B report presented in court, which claims that President's Counsel Shavindra Fernando, who was then serving as a Deputy Solicitor General at the Attorney General's department, had attempted to impede the CID investigation into the abductions. The B report also noted that this alleged interference had been communicated to then Senior State Counsel Haripriya Jayasundara, who was directing the CID investigation, and then Solicitor General Suhada Gamlat. SSP Abesekara also submitted to court a letter addressed to then IGP N.K. Ilangakon from former Solicitor General Suhada Gamlat, dated 22nd September 2015. In his letter, SG Gamlat informs the IGP that CID investigators had been told to remove references to Shavindra Fernando, Haripriya Jayasundara and Suhada Gamlat in the B report filed by IP Nishanta Silva.
When the officers of the forces were being arrested, there were a lot of rumors, lot of shouting by some interested people saying that the war heroes are taken into custody and all that. But today, the Sunday Observer has revealed how the Attorney General's department, especially Mr. Gamlat, the way he has been handling the case, he is also threatening the IGP by writing a letter that is also being produced. He is threatening the IGP saying, if your guys don't withdraw this statement, serious consequences will come. Not only that, he is also saying that Shavindra Fernando and Gamlat, my name, must be removed immediately. You tell your officers to come and see me. I will tell them how to get rid of these things. So, where is justice in this country? And how can the department just threaten the ICC or the SS who is handling these cases? I mean, if their names are coming out, we can see the way they have been functioning before also.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Weekend Primetime News. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.